There. Just felt compelled to make an update because the level of manipulation in the world is at an atrocious all-time high, and it's so unexpressed and unobserved because it's so imperceptible and so hard to pinpoint unless you're just like totally with it and you have high intuition. And if you're watching this and you know what I mean by that, then you know what I'm talking about. It's just impossible to get through to people in a direct and clear way and expect to be understood at all, especially if you make a lot of sense. That seems to be the emphasis is on the illogical status of our lives never even adding up, and us just having to roll with things that don't even make sense. Like it's almost as if the fight against the illogical bullshit in our lives is too much of a headache, and it's almost better just to nod your head and smile and just accept that the world is stupid and is not making any kind of sense, especially when things point to being tangible and real. They're not going to make a lot of sense. Excuse me. But also, this focus on toxic false positivity in the world kills me. We're all aiming and reaching for that appearance of normal and happy, and it just simply is not. Like, we're all inhabiting this weird foreign alien type reality where on the surface things are business as usual, but deep down they're anything but. We're all aware of so much, we feel it, and we're expected to roll with it, and it's adding up to a distressing level. I know it certainly is for me, and I'm just going through my motions like everybody else. I seem to think that a lot of us are just stuck in our lives. We have these limitations that we wouldn't have had otherwise without interference and things transpiring. We're having to exist in a world where we know that there's parameters that we can't define that are obstructing us from even being ourselves in many cases. We're forced to put up with people's bullshit. We're expected to placate narcissists who don't really care about us in order to keep the peace. And that's a horrible idea when you think about what that means. It means that we're sacrificing our own inner peace for the appearance, the illusion of peace. And that is a terrible, terrible idea. But it's what I'm sensing is totally rampant in the world, is we're all playing a role, and it's all disingenuous, and it's all designed to, like I always say, induce that state of cognitive dissonance that keeps us stuck going back and forth between one extreme and the other. There's no middle ground like there needs to be in the world, because that would indicate that this whole event happened to people and that it affected them on a deep level. That's the nature of this type of thing, is that it's designed to get into your mind and body and break your spirit and make you unable to express how it even made you feel. Like, you can't even truly vent or be specific, it seems. There seems to be that type of hold or limit on people, and it's imposed through so many factors that it's hard to even quantify. But I'll put it this way: the evil in the world knows how to prevent things from happening and how to encourage the wrong thing happening. It's almost as if we're living a predetermined life with a set outcome. At least most people are. But I think there's several people like me throughout the world who do see things differently and possess a higher level of autonomy due to them having purer hearts and clearer minds and the ability to think for themselves. So those are people like me who are more than likely being tortured more by this type of harassment and life interference. They are the ones who are going to be more outspoken because they've had many things taken from them. I've had so many things taken from me in my life. Like, so much has changed over the past couple of years for me that it's almost comical. That, like, it's a testament to my resilience. I believe that I'm still alive, even able to articulate this type of thing. So I viewed it as the character test from the universe. Just accept that nobody will understand me, and I understand what I'm getting at, and I can't be swayed from my beliefs. That's the other big picture there, is that they don't want us to believe in anything extraordinary or remarkable, or to ever identify anything traumatizing or horrible that has occurred. They want us to suffer silently while we keep building this trauma that won't go away, and it'll only factor into our behavior and make us worse and worn down and just ruin everything in our existence. That's pretty much what it is. But as time marches along, our will to fight back will go down, because people's minds can't withstand so much without it being a detrimental thing. And I think the will to fight back against anything that we deem oppressive has been subdued greatly. And that's not going to lend itself well in the future whenever real world problems are happening and we never even spoke about what had been going on that we were all aware of but too afraid to speak of, or too guided into not believing in. That's the crazy part to me. I mean, there's so many things that I can point to that point to this not being a normal time period, and a time period that's peppered with evil and horrible things happening beneath the surface. But it's like I just can't pry people's eyes open enough around me. Like, my environment is and has been a dead space for a very, very long time. So I'm just existing within the dead space as I'm sensing that it's lessening. I imagine that there's just going to be less people and less ability to uphold normal over time. So we're all just kind of skating through, waiting for things to get gradually worse until it's noticeable enough to talk about. That's pretty much where I'm at with it, to be completely honest. But the technological interference in our lives, the fear tactics, the imperceptible things that they hope we don't point out, those are the things that are keeping people stuck in that toxic loop that they find it so hard to break out of. And it's depressing and distressing, but in a way you can't even feel better about. Upholding lies, uncomfortable lies and mistruths seems to be the mainstay, and that's the way it'll probably keep going until something more dramatic occurs. But I will say, though, that all the stressors in my life and the things that have been set out, imposed against me to test my character and to test my patience, quite honestly, they have resulted in many things happening on a personal level to me that I've never even divulged to other people, because they just simply won't get it and they don't care, straight up. But I began to notice when this whole thing began to ramp up a year and a half ago for me, on my personal level, my frequency rose. I know for a fact that I have a higher frequency. I'm noticing patterns, synchronicities, even things like numerology around me. Like, I see all the signs. They're all pointing to one thing, and that is a lessening of the world in which we need to prepare for and talk about. But it seems like we can't. Like, I can only get so much from other people. I network a little bit through like Reddit and YouTube, and there's only so far that I can go down that particular rabbit hole with people. It's like I'm cut off with the specifics, and I truly know why that is, but it's still perturbing to think that we can't be more specific and literal with people about certain things that we know to be true. I mean, I hate to just come out and say it and be too specific and be scrutinized, but there's some things that are pretty obvious that are not getting talked about in my vicinity, and it's mind-blowing to me. I'm just gonna hang back, and I guess a lot of people are gonna feel and look stupid in the future when things that I seem to have noticed and other people are catching on to come to fruition. They're just not gonna be able to save face, and it's an unfortunate thing to sit back and watch as people lead themselves and those closest to them into an unfavorable position. Because this whole thing's designed to get into people's families, get in their heads and their minds, and change them, and make it a distressing ordeal. And I sense many people are going to be there are many people that are going to be collateral damage for those around them. It's a sick, insidious thing, and it's a spiritual phenomenon that's occurring that can't really be stopped, that one must brace for, and you'll make it through better knowing things that lead you to better behavior. But it's just a downward trend, and I think everybody knows it and feels it and senses it, but it's highly distressing and depressing to talk about. But living life internally, for me, has been a spiritual battle every day. It never is not a spiritual battle. But externally, it's business as usual. Like, I still wake up and go to work. I put on my pants like everybody else. And I can't seem to feel that anybody around me is living life on the same terms that I am. Like I'd mentioned before, this is all an attack on people who are sentient, who actually have feelings and emotions and think for themselves. That type of thing doesn't lend itself well when you have control freak narcissists who have a God complex. You feel it necessary to limit and inhibit your life. It doesn't sit well with them that I think for myself, and I'm a creative person who's not afraid to express themselves. Those are all scary things that threaten them. But I can't not live and be here, and I know my rights, I invoke my rights, and I know how to be. That's an important thing. We're all going to be scrutinized, and we're going to be preyed upon when we have human moments, and those are meant to guilt and shame us and keep us in a toxic loop of continuous behavior, if you know what that means. But ultimately, it's just all a slow kill of our mind, body, and spirit. And I'm starting to feel the drags myself. Like, I'm not firing on all cylinders all the time anymore like I used to be, despite any type of interference. Like, this is having a sustained effect on people and their bodies over times and their minds. And the normal motions that we're expected to uphold in the world are going to get exponentially weirder and harder to maintain, because many people are cracking at the surface and they're not able to uphold a state of normal because it's just not possible. As people awaken and they're less manipulated and controlled, it's going to be a problem, and I expect that there'll be great care taken to prevent it from being talked about in a large way, which is why I'm doing this now, because I just simply don't give a fuck, and I see no reason not to be myself, and I hope more people start to feel that way. But anywho, just keep pressing on, and hopefully things make more sense in the future tense later on.